Only thing unplugged is Forgotten Seasons.
All right, welcome back. J-Mac checking in from Tahoe. How's it going, man?
Peaceful. It's peaceful. And I wouldn't be checking in if we didn't have a special individual on our schedule. Otherwise, I'd be out here canoeing and kayaking and shit, Dylan.
Well, today, man, usually like when we always like these episodes whenever you get somebody that played 1,300 games in the NBA. Usually it's rare. But where I want to start, which I thought was just very interesting, was you played 1,300 games, Andre Miller. And usually when we talk to people like that, they have these crazy regimens for the offseason. They're spending millions on their body. But you were on record saying when the offseason hit, you were chilling. You might not even pick up a basketball. You were eating burgers, eating hot links. So if taking care of your body and spending millions on your body isn't the solution to longevity in the NBA, what was it for you? Because you played just about as long as anybody that's ever played the game.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. As far as this basketball and this grind, everybody's different. For me, I had to let my body rest because I prided myself on preseason games, being available for practice, and also playing a full 82 games. So for me to go into a summer and, I did play a little basketball, but it wasn't like I was going in there and just training, but it was more of letting my body rest for at least about a month or so. And if I was driving down the street and saw some guys playing pickup ball outside or heard it was some pickup games, then I go play, So, I normally really kicked it in probably around, August. Jelani knows everybody going up to play at UCLA and stuff like that. So I go squeeze in about 3 weeks of basketball, and then I take a little bit off. From like say end of August through like mid-September, and just kind of, slowly get into the grind as far as the season and preparing for practice.
I mean, you missed 6 games from 1999 to 2013.
Yeah. Come on.
I didn't even know that,
Come
I
on,
didn't even
man.
know that.
It's utterly ridiculous, Dre.
Some people say 3, some people say 6, man. I pride myself on keeping track of those kind of things because, I wasn't necessarily a household name, but, just being available to my teammates and especially from a point guard position, just being out there and contributing and being involved, I pretty much prided myself on that. So that's why I didn't, take the easy way out and say, you know what, I don't have it today.
I'll put it in perspective and just say it out loud. Dre Miller, 1,304 career games played, number 21 all time for point guards. Only point guards ahead of you are Gary Payton, Jason Kidd, and John Stockton.
His games played.
Yes.
I'm happy to be in that category.
Yes, at possibly the toughest position in the league outside of maybe the 2 guard and the center, when availability means everything, considering the period in which you played too, when availability means everything and you're running against, these are Hall of Fame point guards. Where did you get the zeal to, put your body and mental on the line for that long a time?
Just always wanting to hoop, man. I just wanted to be involved. I wanted to be a part of something, and just being a student of the game. I was blessed enough to be around good people that loved basketball the way I did growing up, and then through high school and then college. I'm out here in Utah, and I'm able to see John Stockton, Jeff Hornacek,
Facts.
Karl Malone, it's the Utah Jazz, and then it's the Utah Utes. So, to be able to go around those guys and see their work ethic and how they prepare going into the season, and also to play pickup basketball with them, man, it was like, man, what player can ask for that? To be around a John Stockton, Karl Malone, who also both those guys played multiple years and. Probably played 2,000 basketball games. So, I learned a lot from being around those guys and just being in that environment.
What does a John Stockton teach you in the pickup game? Like, what are you learning from John Stockton? Is it one-on-one? Are you just observing? Is he like kind of teaching you hands-on? Like, what do you learn from a John Stockton in the pickup game?
Can you also set the scene for us exactly what's happening? Like, are you fully immersed in their training camp? Is it just like a couple
No,
pickup games? Can you set the scene for us?
it's like this, man. Like, of course, I'm in Utah. I'm out there for 5 years. Never went home in the summer. So I was always trying to find pickup. I was always trying to find pickup games, and we had this gym up on campus called the Hyper, and there's like four or five gyms in there. So the Utah Jazz guys would come up there: Brian Russell, Howard Isley, Shannon Anderson. All these guys would come up there and hoop. But John Stockton and Karl Malone, those guys wouldn't come. But like right around when I started school in like say August, they'll start revving up, getting ready for training camp in September. So it was this school called a little D2 school or NAIA school, small school where they used to practice called Westminster College. And that's when they all start showing up. And for me, I'm like, it would be like probably like about 4 or 5 of us that will always go over there and hoop with them. And next thing you know, it's like they walking in the gym and they not even, like it's like they already warmed up. Like it ain't no stretching. It ain't no walking in with the slippers on. Let me sit on the side and lace up my shoes. It was straight to the court. And for me, it was just straight observation. I don't even remember John Stockton saying maybe 5 words to me, like, what's up? Maybe something like that. But Jeff Hornacek will pull me to the other end of the court, get some shots up with him. He'll offer a little bit of advice, and man, it was no nonsense. It was no nonsense. And then the structure that they played pickup ball was the same as the way they played when they played with the Utah Jazz. They running UCLA cuts, flex cuts. I'm like, man, we supposed
Cross
to be.
screens for the big and
Yeah,
pick up,
man. I'm
bringing
like,
Karl
hold up,
Malone
yeah,
to
yeah, straight up,
the.
man. Like, hold up, man. I thought this pickup ball, but they was so structured. So, man, it was all observation for me, man, and the no nonsense. If you look like you was out of shape, man, John Stock, hey, man, get off the court, man. Yeah, it was like that. If Karl Malone came in gym, you see all those muscles, man. They not putting up for somebody flabby, out of shape coming into the gym like, nah, you can't even touch the court. So it was definitely a big learning step for me.
That's interesting because I've heard you talk a lot about the influence that the Showtime Lakers had on you when you were growing up in LA and watching Magic and those guys, but I didn't even really put two and two together. Do you think that Jazz influence in soaking up all that game in those 5 years? How much do you think that influenced the beginning of your career? Because once you hit the NBA, you were ready. I mean, you started a lot. You led the league in assists your third year. Do you think that those sessions with the Jazz influenced you a ton, even in your early years in the NBA?
Definitely, because man, of course, growing up in Los Angeles and just being a student of the game, watching Magic Johnson, the Lakers, everybody, fans of the Celtics, all the teams, but that wasn't tangible. That wasn't tangible. So I get to Utah and I'm watching guys that have played against my heroes. The Magic Johnson. I'm
Hmm.
watching legends and Karl Malone and John Stockton, and it's tangible. I can be in the gym with them and develop confidence, learn the physicality, and just soak up the game. Back then they wasn't really saying too much. It was like, you get out here and you get knocked around and you learn from it. You might have 1 or 2 guys that might try to offer some advice, but just the tangibility of being around those guys and them sticking around. They was always around in the summers. Maybe they take family time, but those guys were always hooping. So I just tagged along. Where's the hoops at? I'll be there. So that's how it was big time for me.
He's also there when they're losing to the Bulls, like the exact window when they lose back to back to the Bulls. Those are the summers that you're there, so that explains why Stockton wasn't messing around.
Oh, definitely. You figure if I was there in 94, 95 through 99, and then they had that back to back run. And, I still remember, me and my college teammates, us going to the weight room together in the summertime, just hitting the weights, playing tennis, working out, and then we'll go play hoop with them. And then the same way they played in the finals versus Michael Jordan, that's how they was playing in the pickup games. You know, it wasn't as faster, but you know, it was discipline, it was work ethic, and then forming chemistry to go through an entire season. And for your leaders and John Stockton and Karl Malone to set the stage. And then, I mean, the Hall of Fame, you know, rest in peace, Jerry Sloan. I mean, he would sit there and just watch and critique and teach as if while we're playing. So, man, I had an opportunity to catch that for 5 years, man. So, you know, it helped us out as a team with Utah, learning discipline, work ethic, and it helped us get to the finals and the championship.
The last thing I'll say about the Jazz, it's interesting. Like, everybody always wants to anoint the best team to never win a ring or the best player to never win a ring. And I think the Jazz team, nobody really talks about. I think, you know, they were up in Utah. They didn't play sexy basketball. Karl Malone did some stuff, you know, in life that might have impacted that conversation. But for both of you, where do you view that Jazz, the late 90s Jazz and Stockton Malone, in the conversation of the best players or the best teams to never win a ring?
I put them up there because of the system. For what Dre said, they had a system. Them cross screens, the pinch, a lot of that stuff, you know, has been bastardized from a lot of that Jerry Sloan thing, the splits, the cross streams for the post, the UCLA. I will put them up there with the triangles of the world and the Popovich systems. If, you know, some things don't happen in Utah and they don't run into Michael Jordans and some good West Coast teams, I consider the Jazz to be up there in that era, considering they was, like Dre said, they had a system, they was going to do it, you knew it was coming, you know, it was super basic, but you know what I mean, they seem to be able to achieve it at a high level every single year.
And to add to that, you know, the triangle was created. However they created it and however they implemented it, you know, it was successful with the Jordan era and the Kobe Shaq era, and it's hard to teach that. But you figure these are pros, and John Stockton, Karl Malone, Brian Russell, Jeff Hornacek, man, they ran flex.
Facts.
They basically, that's flex.
It is.
They ran flex. That's what they teach you in grade school. That's the first thing that you start running offense. It was flex. They ran flex for 20 years. For
He ain't
20
lying.
years.
Now that I think
And
about it.
that's all they ran was flex, different versions of flex. And it was
Yep.
all just reading the screen, cross screen, up screen, and then the talent level and the smarts made it work. The smarts, yeah.
And they had people that, like Ostertag and
Oh,
people
yeah.
that just did their role. They had big people that would just get in the way and not look to be scoring, you know, to just block shots and be big. So, yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good point, Dre. At the end of the day, it was a
It was
glorified
straight
flex.
Straight flex. Pass to the wing, UCLA cut. He might go screen away. He might up screen back for Karl Malone. You know,
That was the
then you
worst
got
one. For me, that was the worst one.
Yeah.
When he do the UCLA and then he come and then they let him get away with that bullshit on the up screen. So
Yeah.
to bring Karl Malone for the blah, blah, it was almost unguardable. They would
It
tell
put
you,
all-
get strong side. Get strong side on Karl Malone?
Yeah. Straight
Yeah.
up, man. And that's when I learned, you know, like really like how to actually set a screen. You know, of course, when we did it in college, you know, the coach that I played for, you know, he prided himself on ball movement and screening. But to sit and watch a John Stockton set a screen or a Jeff Hornacek or Brian Russell and read screens like that, that was stuff that I picked up on in the summertime. And then it was implemented just because we had players that knew how to do it on the college level also.
Good. I've heard a couple people talk about you recently. Iguodala on I forget which podcast he was on. He said that the first thing that he said when they asked him about you is that you were always going to get him and Willie Green like 3 easy buckets a game off of flex cuts.
Who are the smartest guys you played with? Both of you guys. Andre Miller. And I remember Floppy. I would get me and Willie Green.
I was going to bring this up.
Me and Willie Green
Fucking hated guarding this.
will get like 4 or 5 easy buckets every night. Like I knew I would get 6 points a night off Floppy. And Willie Green knew he would get 4 points a night off Floppy. We just come together under the basket and the defense is always turning their head or like guarding you to force you one day, you stand under the basket and and the ball just boom and you just get layups. And then we start practicing it and practicing in practice, and I would get my finishes to just be like boom or boom. And I was like, why haven't I ever seen this before? And he had little subtle things like that.
So it's all coming back now that was all game from John Stockton, Jerry Sloan, and Karl Malone.
Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, all that stuff was, Rick Majerus. I was blessed enough to have some great teammates that understood basketball, that was unselfish, and tough-minded. And, for us to be able to, I mean, you getting it from a great college coach, you getting it from a great NBA coach, and you getting it from legends of the game that simplified it, and they just did it smart, and they just did it hard.
Dre, what happened to the true point guard, and what is the true point guard now? It doesn't still exist. Does our definition of a true point guard, how we grew up, still exist, or has that evolved into something else?
I like to say it still exists, but I mean, with the way AAU ball is and the team basketball aspect of it, like I have friends that have, sons or daughters that play basketball, and playing basketball the right way isn't really in their best interest. So what is it like if you tell like, hey man, like what it look like my son sharing the ball all the time, and this kid go over here and score 25 points, he's going to get a scholarship. He's going to create a Instagram, Twitter page, show all his highlights, and bam, he got a scholarship. Name, image, and likeness, offer. That's what the kids are on, offer. Like, there's nobody out there showing highlights in they little clips to get scholarships of me making the right pass, or me taking the charge, or me making the right play. It's all getting buckets.
All of it.
It's all getting buckets. So, I think it has changed. I think, everything will come back full circle, eventually, but it's hard to see when society thinks that the way you can impact the game is just by putting the ball in the basket. The only way the people, the professionals, the Jelanis and the Dylans and the Andres of the world that we consider professionals and students of the game, we know how it's supposed to be done. Well, mom, dad, auntie, uncle, or the guy that was the coach of the AAU team,
the trainer,
the trainer that's coaching these teams, them the ones that don't know. They're like, hey, go get buckets, So that's how I see it.
In the words of Cameron, who name dropped you in a 2009 song, he said,
I'm killing you, Andre Miller, got a basic game.
But I would argue that the basic game is what's
killer.
Been lost. And a lot of people that Cameron probably knows from New York that I've played against, they're worried about the things that you're explaining about getting a bucket, and they don't last 17 years in the league. The art of the basic game and the true point guard, I think, has been lost.
The basic game is the killer. I don't care what, a basic game leads to, super athleticism. If you ain't got no fundamental base, you know what I mean? And the basic game is actually the assassin or the killer. All that athleticism, he got some trick bag shit, that shit come and go. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
fundamentally sound.
It's some responsibilities that go with all that athleticism and all that extra stuff, because guess what? People going to expect it every day.
Facts.
They're going to expect, if you're going to go out there and do some trick stuff and do some twist dunks and all that, now there's expectations to that. You know what I'm saying? They're going to expect, oh, you know what? We come to the game because we know Zion Williams going to do a windmill dunk. So like I'm leaving the stadium if I don't see that. So, that's how it go.
Denver, is it true that you signed as a free agent in Denver partially to play with Melo?
Yeah, so, of course, the first 3 years in Cleveland, were great for me because I was a young guy. And then, of course, I opened my mouth and say, trade me after they said they wanted to tank the season and draft LeBron, So, I went through the Clippers, and it was like, here's a free agent, my first real opportunity to be a free agent. And really it came down to Denver and in Utah, back to Utah to play for the Jazz. And you know, I didn't know what direction the Jazz were going in, and then I'm like, man, I already lived in Utah, and actually, maybe I should have played for the Utah Jazz because it would have been a nice setup, and it was like a second home for me. But I saw what Carmelo Anthony did in college, man, and I mean, for a freshman to do what he did and lead that team to a championship, man, it was like a no-brainer. Like, man, I gotta go play with this dude, man. I gotta go, because it's gonna make it easy for me. And then I'm trying to make it easy for him. So it was pretty much a no-brainer to go and be a teammate with him.
I mean, that says something to just know straight off the gate, just off watching somebody in college. You only get 3 years with him, and you're in the trade that sends out Allen Iverson to Denver, and you go to Philly. Do you wish you got more time in Denver? And kind of looking back and putting on your coach GM hat, do you feel like Melo having that more traditional point guard was the move versus trying to put two of the best scorers ever in Carmelo and Iverson together without a true point guard? I think they tried and kind of recreate that a little bit later, going and getting Anthony Carter.
I was just about to say, I was there, you know what I mean, after Dre left, you know what I mean, going in between the G League and the Nuggets. Luxury, and remember they were way over the luxury tax. You know what I mean? They was like, maybe in the history of the luxury tax, they were setting new records for the luxury tax. But I was there. They tried to do it with like a tough AC Carter. You know what I mean? But the AI Melo experiment just wasn't. On paper, it looked great. You know what I mean? On the court, sometimes it looked good, but it wasn't built on something that would be consistent.
And to that, I mean, if you look back, I mean, Allen Iverson is probably one of the greatest competitors to come through the NBA. Mm-hmm. And hey, if I'm a GM at that time and what he's doing, I'll probably trade me too. You know what I'm saying? but it was a change in management going on at that time with the Nuggets. With Kiki Vandeweghe stepping away and some things going on, which none of the players can control. We just go out and do our job. But it was probably one of the tougher trades for me to accept, just because I felt like yeah, man, you got to understand who we playing against in the West, man. You playing against Shaq and Kobe. You playing against the Utah Jazz. You playing against the Memphis Grizzlies. You playing against the Phoenix Suns. You playing against the Spurs, man. I mean, like, come on, are you serious? So I can understand, okay, we need an extra oomph. We've tried this for 3 years. We went to the playoffs. Let's try something. Let's bring in somebody that can possibly get us over the hump. And I tell you one thing, it was very hard to get over the hump with a Kobe Bryant and Shaq in the West and Tim Duncan, Parker, and Ginobili. I mean, the West was stacked, so it was tough for them, but it was a great experience for me, and I was able to run it back again, being traded back again. So
I want to backtrack a little bit, Dre, because I feel like we skipped over this. We talked about point guards, but one thing we forgot to talk about is the post game. Of the point guards, you know what I mean? The Baron Davises of the world, yourself, Jason Kidd, Sam Cassell, Gary Payton, a lot of the guys you already mentioned. I got two things I want to ask. How important was the post game for your development, even as the point guard position? And I want to add the fact that me and Dylan talked about this, and we watched some videos. I believe in my weird brain that your obsession with skating can be seen in a little bit of some of those post moves, particularly the spins, some of the things that you did with your back to the basket. First of all, can you talk about when did your love of skating come in, and did any of that incorporate into the post game? And then the third part, how important was that post game to your development?
Man, first, kid growing up, man, that's all, outlet. You either go outside or your mom drop you off at the skating ring. So it's like you was forced to learn how to skate, and I still roller skate to this day, when my feet aren't hurting. Well, I'm actually going skating tonight, man, because my feet
He
feel
got
good. So,
custom shoes. He got custom
yeah, I got me
shoes
some.
and everything,
Got my
Dylan.
Stacey Adams skates,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna go get my roll on tonight because I feel my body feel pretty good. But really, man, like just being a student of the game. You watch Magic Johnson turn his back. I loved watching Jordan shoot that fadeaway. I loved watching Gary Payton do his spin, his famous Gary Payton, Steve Smith when he did his stuff. I was
Smitty.
just, man, I was trying to take all that stuff and just kind of put it in my toolbox. And what's crazy is I didn't really do it too much in college. And, I already knew that I was strong and, I knew how to use my body. But I say like my second year, John Lucas came in. John Lucas came in and was our coach in Cleveland. And he would be like, he'd just started calling actions where I would go down to the post and he would always call me Richard Pryor, like, Richard, Richard, go,
Yeah.
go, you know. So I just found myself down there, and I'm like, man, I could post up dudes and just put my butt and have somebody on my butt and just kind of shoot over them or just put them under the basket. And it kind of made my job easier because I'm like, man, if they got to start doubling me, then I can make passes. And that's one thing that I watched Jason Kidd do where early on, he was more of a passer than he was a scorer in the post. And I was like, well, I don't have that Jason Kidd cachet yet where let me prove that I can score down here first. And then let me start kicking that ball out. So it was just the confidence in John Lucas, like, okay, man, you can post up, man. And he was just, and then like, just pushing the ball up the court. And I still remember Gary Payton dribbling up the sideline, him, Magic, and then they'll turn their back, and then next thing you know, they done spun and they into a layup. So I'm like, well, if nobody's gonna run with me, and I'm, bringing the ball up the side of the court, it's almost automatic if I don't feel like trying to beat somebody off the dribble. So I just kind of fell into that, and it made me realize that I can do other things than just, run, pick and roll and make passes. I can actually go down there and, I'm going to score on you this way.
One of the series that you were on the wrong side of, Warriors Nuggets, what was going through your mind when you were seeing Steph doing what he was doing at the point guard position?
That was the year that we actually had a franchise record in games, winning games. We won like 57 games. And then Gallinari tears his knee before the playoffs start. And as much as I wanted to win that game, win that series, man, and we had a really good team, it felt like, you know what? We ain't got a chance, man, because the way that ball was going through the basket, man, like, I didn't play with some great shooters. Vashawn Leonard, Danny Ferry, Trajan Langdon,
Say that.
Wesley Person, man. This ball was going in the basket through the hoop a little bit different. Like when Steph and Clay was shooting that ball,
Bottoms.
it wasn't, bottoms ain't the word. That ball was already, I'm like, hold up, man. Like, nah, it's the ball not hitting the rim. It's not like it was almost like, you play a video game and the net start getting on fire. That's what it felt like, man. And it was, I mean, those youngsters, man, it was like in the way they moved. And I knew what was going to happen. And I'm like, you know what? I ain't going to be around too much longer anyway. So,
There's something new coming. You like, it's something new coming. They got something else going on out here.
and I can try to make my game translate because I wasn't no killer 3-point shooter, but man, it was all opened up. When those guys started shooting the ball like that, the game was all opened up. And it was like, you know what, I only got like about 3 or 4 years left, so I'm cool with that.
As somebody that has a PhD in point guarding and probably the highest classification in this secret point guard club, where does Steph Curry rank for you in the greatest point guard that ever played the game? And do you view him in the same light as a traditional point guard like a yourself or an Isaiah Thomas or a Magic Johnson?
I mean, for me, man, if you playing anybody that's playing and touched the NBA court and played on the level of a Jelani or me or Steph Curry, whoever you want, if you've touched that court on the NBA, in the NBA, you are great to me.
Facts.
You are great. You are a
Same.
legend, man.
Same.
You are a legend. Jelani's a legend in my eyes. Because a lot of people don't know what goes into the process of trying to get to that level. The hard work, the consistency, the mental toughness, to block out all the distractions. And when you talk about a Stephen Curry, man, like, I mean, Michael Jordan changed the game. Kobe, LeBron, he might have changed the game more than anybody in the history of the game. Every time I go into a gym, everybody's shooting 3-pointers. Everybody's shooting 3-pointers. And he is, in my eyes, he is an all-time great. I will put him in my top 10 point guards all time. You know what I'm saying? He is that. I was able to see it up close. I was able to see it guarding him. I was able to see it from the bench. And one story I tell, man, my last year I was playing in Minnesota, and Sam Mitchell was the coach. And Kevin Garnett was back in Minnesota. It was Tayshaun, me, Kevin Garnett, and Kevin Martin was the veterans on the team. And at this time, I already knew it was going to be my last year, you know. And Stephen Curry came into Minnesota, man. And he probably scored like 8 points. And like this one, he was just like torching first and third quarters. He was just tearing the league apart. And Sam Mitchell looked down the bench. He was like, Andre, you're in. And I didn't think I was playing. I'm enjoying the show. And, man, I got out there, man. And now this 4 years later from playing them in the playoffs. So you can see how he improved. And I wanted to smoke. But before I turned around, that 8 points went to like 23, 24 points. And I'm like, dude, and I'm actually playing good defense. I'm actually playing good defense at 40 years old on this guy. And then you could just hear the fans like, come on, Miller. Come on. Like, dude, I don't have a chance against this youngster. It's a wrap. So, you know, man, he's an all-time great, man. Whether he is a point guard. He has a point guard mentality because he knows when to score the ball.
Yep.
And he knows when not to score. He's one of the best finishers in history. And he's a clutch player. So in my eyes, man, like he ain't never had to change teams. You know what I'm saying? He's big time, man. One of my favorite players ever.
I asked a friend, same comment, hey, is Steph a point guard? Another one of our friends, he said, well, he bring the ball up sometimes. And I was like, damn. That's where we're at now.
I think Stephen Curry, I think he thinks more like a point guard than he does a scorer.
I agree.
In my eyes,
I agree.
Because everything that he does is based on decoy and feel. I'm gonna open the game up. I'm gonna be a decoy for my teammates. You know what I'm saying? Whether, you know, okay,
Scoring
now
cuts.
I got the scoring cuts, back cuts, moving without the ball, slip cuts, and then the mentality of, like, say, Chris Paul, you know what, Stephen Curry will say, you know what, okay, today I'm going to come out and set the tone. I'm finna set the tone by putting that ball in the basket. So his feel fluctuates for me. So I see a point guard in him.
Does Draymond not get enough credit? Because we work with some former professional players that don't give Draymond the credit. Does Steph need Draymond? Did they need each other to do what they did?
That's what the team is for.
Yeah.
That's what the team is for. You got role players, you need somebody to fulfill every role. And to say that Draymond Green's role on the team is not important to Stephen Curry is ignorance. You know what I'm saying? You know, all the antics, yeah. Everybody got little antics. Maybe you get overboard a little bit, you know. Hey, would I tell you one thing? Stephen Curry went from a mediocre defender to a better defender because of Draymond Green. Klay Thompson, all those guys became better defenders because of Draymond Green, Andre Iguodala. They learned how to get away with all the antics, the grabbing, whatever you call it. So Draymond Green, man, is just important as Stephen Curry when it comes to that basketball and what they accomplish as a team.
Dre, how do you, without being a shooter like that, how do you open up your game to get 50 balls?
Here's Miller against Marion. Another outside jumper. He's got 50 points.
Did you decide before that game, you know what, once in my career, I'm just going to shoot every time?
No, and what I do regret is that I didn't shoot more.
Facts.
Because how often you gonna reach that point, and I'm like, man, like I could have had 60 or 70 if I wanted to play the selfish role, but I felt like it just flowed that way, and it didn't feel selfish. It's just the way the game flowed. I think my aggressiveness of, you know what, I'm playing against Jason Kidd, man. I'm playing against Jason Kidd. And actually that team was the team that went to the finals. And I think they went to the finals and lost to the Heat maybe, but you know, Jason Kidd.
That was the year before they beat the Heat the next year.
Okay, yeah. But just like I knew the thought process of a Jason Kidd, a Jason Terry, Barrera, you know, like, hey, they going to give you a couple shots. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what I used to do with them. I know J. Kidd want to pass, but let me go play some help defense and let me see if he knocked down one or two of these threes. And then let me buckle down. So once I saw the way that he was playing, you know, like, okay, I know Dre like to pass. He ain't going to really shoot early. I'm like, let me see if a couple of these go in early. And they did. And I'm like, you know what? Now they got to play some more defense. And then it was, by that time, it was just too late. And, you know, it just flowed. And the good thing about that game for me, I tell my friends, like, man, I didn't even get tired.
Damn.
I didn't get tired.
It was
man.
all efficient.
And it was all efficient. And you know what? Like, man, it was like, man, I felt better after that game. Like, I'm like, dang, like, I knew I could do that, but dang, like, the last time I did something like that was probably freshman year in high school. It was only 6 players on the team.
Did that make you want to? Did that make you want to revert back to scoring? For a minute there, was you were like, I'm a scorer?
No.
It's like a drug.
I knew my role, man. I knew my role, and even all my teammates, all the guys that I played with, knew I can score. You know, it was just a timing thing, but there's no way, man. Like I got a lot of respect for these scores. Like I say, when you a scorer like a Allen Iverson or Carmelo or LeBron or all these Stephen Curry, man, you know how hard it is to do that every game. Damian Lillard, you know,
and
like,
the defense
there's no way.
And the defense is trying to make it. They're keying in on you.
There's no way I would want to go out there and shoot 25 times a game. There's no way. 25, 30 times a game, man. That's when you'll see low management out of me because, you know, I'm definitely you're only going to get about 55, 60 games out of me if I'm shooting 25, 30 times. And, you know, I tell the story, Sean Kemp, my rookie year, I think I had a triple-double, like 28, 30-some points like that. And Sean Kemp, who I have a lot of respect for, he told me after the game, he was like, young fella, you ain't going to be doing that. You ain't going to be – no, you ain't going to be shooting the ball like that over here. You know what I'm saying? But he said – he gave me my props, but out of respect, he was like, you know, I'm that man. I'm the guy. Give me the ball. So I knew, you know, hey, I got to make my teammates around me better.
One more thing real quick, Dylan, and it's a slight backtrack, but I want to talk about the development of the point guards right now, Dre, because I went down to Peach Jam, watched, you know, been watching videos of some high-level point guards. What's up with the hand fight? Now the offhand is a whole little thing. You can pull, you can push. You know what I mean? It's like how we used to fight on the post. I think, have you been noticing, you coaching in the G League now, you obviously watching a lot of NBA footage. Have you picked up on what's going on with the hand fight, what's going on with the offhand between guards? Kyrie kind of introduced it, but now it seems like they're not calling it. right? It's actually
Yeah.
some of it is actually an offensive foul. But what can you speak to about like the offhand and the hand fight of what's going on in the point guard position now, particularly on guys that aren't the 6'5", 6'6" point guard? It's the 6'1s, the 6'2". How important? Because that's something I've been talking to Jays about. How important is knowing about that hand fight when it comes to ball handling?
You know what's crazy, man? I don't do social media, so I watch TikTok. You know what
Hey.
I'm saying? So I'll be watching all these little videos of trainers, doing skill work and actually teaching the hand stuff. When they do a workout, teaching the moves, like the Steve Nash swipe down and all the hand stuff. But yeah, you can drill that. You can drill that and you can do skill work in that. But when you watch Steve Nash or Kyrie Irving or Stephen Curry or Marbury or Allen Iverson, all that is instinct. All that is instinct. That's all it is. It's instinct. They not going out there saying, you know what? I'm gonna put that hand. I'm gonna get. They don't want that hand. That's wasted energy. Trying to do whatever. They trying to do whatever they can to get past their man. Now, yeah, Kyrie might mix it up a little bit because Kyrie will have you beat on the first move.
All the time.
He got you beat on the first move, but let me bring the ball back so I can bring it back and play with you a little bit more. But everything with those guys, to me, when I watch it, is instincts. Now, for a trainer to go and try to teach that, like, how much it's taken away from the game because now these kids thinking that, you know what, I done drilled it a lot. Let me go practice on it. And now it don't look natural. It don't look natural. It's not natural. So now you get the offensive fouls and all that type of stuff. So, now all our moves is being put in drill work.
That's what we need. If you're on TikTok, you could be the leader of this anti-trainer movement, and you could just the one dribble combos. That could be you.
Well, hey, I mean, it all comes to light if for the guys that make it from high school to college. A coach is gonna say, you know what, either shoot it, pass it, or something. Shoot it, pass it, or
Isn't
just
that
make a quick decision.
Isn't that Georgia shit? Either be shooting
Yeah.
or be passing. Don't just let it get
Greg
stuck.
Popovich.
Yeah.
It's a reason why what they call it the 0.5 rule. Greg Popovich. You got 0.5 seconds to make a decision. Shoot it, pass it, or drive it. Now, the top two players, the James Hardens, the Kyries of the world, the Lukas, they could get into their mix. But guess what? Everybody ain't gonna be them. There's gonna be more role players than it is the mega stars. So find your niche, shoot it, pass it, or dribble it. Now, maybe every now and then you might find yourself on one side of the court, you get to throw that in there. But all the time, maybe. So that's how I see it.
How do you feel about Jalen Brunson? I keep coming back to Jalen Brunson. The post game, playing off 2 feet, not a lot of wasted movement. Yeah, he gets in his bag when he gets in the garden and then he's scoring.
It's all reaction though. That's just all reaction.
Yeah. How do you feel like the Jalen Brunson version of the point guard?
Man, like, he is a point guard. He is a point guard, but like, number one, I've seen him play up close, and I just got to go stand next to him. Number one, because I want to see his actual height, and then also like he's got it in his mind that he knows that he can be an old school point guard, but he understands the new version of basketball is for me to go get it. For me to go get it and make it happen and not wait on anybody. So he has the good balance and he has the feel. And he mixed it up a little bit, but guess what? He knows who he is as a ball player. And that's why, like, I think he just got a contract, right? A contract extension. And everybody was saying, you know what? I wouldn't have passed up on that 100-something million or whatever. And maybe I probably wouldn't have passed on it too. But there's probably a reason why. There's a reason why he probably did it, because he peaked big time this year. He hit a severe peak, and he carried a lot of load. And for his body like that, is that the type of player that he think he can go do that all the time? Because guess what? That's what people are going to be expecting. And in his mind, he probably thinking, you know what? I can't be going out here doing this all the time.
Hey,
I
got
need
Pops
my
over there.
Julius Randle.
Yeah.
I need my Julius Randle. I need my Mikal Bridges. I need all these guys. I just really hit that. Like, I found a zone and I carried it. But you could see how tired and how he felt afterwards.
Facts.
hey, he's like
6'2".
Not even. He's like 6'1", max.
If he
6'2"
could
in his
replicate,
shoes.
if he could replicate what he just did this past season, if he can do that again, then I'm putting him in the megastar category.
I agree. I might give him top 2, top 3 PGs. If he can do that shit that he did last year or this year while maintaining the winning, I'll catapult him into the top currently.
You put him in MVP category if he can do that same thing again, and probably top 5 point guards in the league, megastar, if he can do it again. And I'm saying to myself, you know what? He probably didn't. I don't know if he actually really want to do that again. He gonna have his moments. He gonna have his moments. But now that people done seen what he can do, there is an expectation. There is an expectation now, and I think he got good balance. He'll figure it out.
Yeah.
He takes bumps. Hey, I'm a Knicks fan, and that's what we say too. Like, to maintain that level of physicality at 6'1" and take 25 shots a night, it's a miracle that he did it a full year in the playoffs.
Facts.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, this was amazing. Thank you so much. We're going to be following along the coaching journey for sure. But thank you for your time, and appreciate you working through the technical difficulties. This was a great one.
Put
Thank
Andre
you,
Miller in
guys.
the
Thank
Hall
you,
of
guys.
Fame. Stop playing. You heard it here on Forgotten Seasons. Put Andre Miller in the Hall of Fame. Y'all letting everybody just go in there. How we gonna forget about Dre Mill? You heard the statistics. Only Jason Kidd and Gary Payton and John Stockton. Who else do we need? Go on and put Dre Mill in the Hall of Fame.
Thank you, guys, man. Thanks for having me.
No doubt.
Appreciate
Thanks
you.
for having me.